announcement going that it's happening.
They'll probably get that
we will be in
announcement.
business.
Yep, there it is. Yeah, I saw the thing
Yep.
from 713 about you guys being there.
Alrighty. And I'm gonna go and retweet this with one other account. Unfortunately, thanks for the follow. I actually tried to turn off the follow notifications for this stream, and it didn't work. I don't understand what the sound is coming from, so we're just gonna have a gem dab every now and then, and we're gonna have to deal with that, unfortunately. So apologies to the teams involved. I couldn't figure out how to get that stopped. So, okay. We're starting off with a match from Squid Bucks. So Squid Bucks is the team that we're looking at here.
Us.
Yeah.
Hello. And then we have 3 more teams after that. It'll be Ink Zuka, Pufferfish, and Star Squids, and we'll be doing them in that order. I'm going to get started pretty much right away because there's a lot to go through, and we don't want to be here all night. So
This game too.
All right.
And we're seeing the.
I'm gonna turn volume down on the commentary, simply because, like, as a commentator myself, I know that when I'm commentating, I'm having to react to a lot of things. I'm having to collect a lot of information, and we have the luxury of time to be able to stop and look things over a little bit more. So I'm not. This isn't to like discredit the commentary or anything like that. Isn't this Devi? Like Devi's been on Squid School all the time, but I'm turning it down simply so that we can talk about it at our own pace, and it's not going to be distracting. So really quickly, we're looking at is this blue team that is Squid Bucks? I don't recognize the.
No, we're green.
Okay, you're.
Yeah, we're green in this match.
So. Dav,
Okay.
Astra, Coffee, and Endo. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say, you can go back and, like, actually, no, never mind.
Marsless comp.
Gotcha.
Marsless comp.
Marsless comp, okay. So
Optimal.
we're looking at Tetras, Squeezer, that's a Gold Dynamo, I think, and a VDS.
Okay.
So we've got Armor, Missiles, Bubbles, of course, and Splashdown. So thinking about this, so the Tetras in general are a weapon that you kind of build a comp around. You make it so that the comp exists to enable those Tetras to do what they want to do. Because they're one of the more powerful weapons in the game in the right hands if they have paint and their team can follow up with them. But those are... It's kind of like the Nautilus in that you need a lot of setup to work with that. So I'm going to be looking in part at like who's pairing with it or who's painting for it. My guess is that's going to be some combination of like the Dynamo and the VDS, while the Squeezer is going to be probably taking a position where they can maybe like shark and get picks on players before they get in range of it. And we're playing zones, so we'll have to see how neutral goes here. I think we'll get started. And then we're looking at them. They don't have any backline. They have a good amount of midline, 96 plus a K-Pro. And then they've got a decent amount of front line as well with the combination of an N-Zap and a Tri-Slosher. They've got double armor, so that's something to bear in mind, that you're probably not going to get a situation where you have an armor power play. That is, you have armor and they don't, because they have the luxury of being able to pop an armor and then have another one in reserve for when you pop yours. So that's something that the Dynamo especially is probably thinking about. And then we've also got Booyah Bomb and Missiles. So this is a comp that wants to run forward and fight you, it looks like, based on the specials that they're choosing. So what you might want to do, especially since you have a VDS, a Dynamo, a Squeezer, some longer ranged weapons that have the ability to kite in some cases, what you might want to do is kind of like wait for them to feed into you here, because you guys pushing into them seems a lot less likely to work. What with the kill times your weapons have, generally very slow kill times across the board except the Dynamo. And really the Dynamo has to have a swing ready to go. So it might be that you want to try and control space more than that you want to run forward at them and directly engage. So You guys, with the squeeze, this is the squeezer? Yeah, squeezer immediately takes control in mid here, using your range to get a player who didn't look before they leapt. So that's a great pick right there, and that'll enable you guys to cap and move forward a little bit. That is a strong angle to take as the squeezer. I would encourage you to be careful about when you jump specifically, because when you're in the air, you don't have access to the same mobility options that you do on the ground. So you might get caught out a little bit there, and like the burst bomb, for example, painted your feet a little bit, might have been a little bit more dangerous than it had to be. Like anytime you're jumping like this, it's not really improving your mobility in a way that you need right now, and it is increasing your shot RNG, and it's also making it so that if a bomb gets thrown under you or something like that, you're in more trouble. So I would encourage you to, while you're painting just like this and while you're, moving around, not to be as jumpy. Looks like there's some engagement going on the right-hand side with the Tetra Dualies, because I see my teammate dodge rolling and shooting off to the right-hand side there. I'm like, they're probably not painting that. They're probably actually fighting someone. So that might be a situation where you want to call that out and have one other person maybe turn. Because if only one person is dropped here, this is a 2v1 and you guys win it. And you're two of the better duelist weapons in the entire game. So you guys, with the squeezer's range from further away and the bomb, with the Tetras being all zippy and zoopy, you could probably zero this guy out, even though they do have armor here. Ends up just being a 1v1, and the Tetras end up winning it, but you probably increase your chances by having a second player on that real quick. So you are able to maintain control here. You win a couple of fights, which is awesome. And now you're starting to move up. So it's interesting. It's looking like your squeezer is the one who's moving forward the most here. And like it totally works. Like the squeezer is one of the most versatile weapons in the game. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just like on a lot of comps you have something like a K52 or something that is all about holding forward at people. All about just taking space away from them as quickly as possible. And since you guys have a Dynamo and a VDS and Tetras, which like kind of want to be flanking a little bit more or skirmishing a little bit more, it's just interesting that ends up falling to the squeezer in this case.
I think on this one, I think I noticed that I have like bubbles pretty much charged. So I think right here, I think
okay,
maybe
so you're going
I
for a
said
bubble
like,
play on the plat.
bubble
That makes
play
sense.
on on the plat. That's the main thing, and then we try to get Tetras up there as well. Yeah, that's what we do.
And it works perfectly. This player is out of position by a lot. Like with that many of their teammates down, having seen that they just lost mid, having seen that people are running toward them, they're putting themselves in a very like dead end corner right here. They don't want to be down this far right now. So this is a good punish on that positioning. And you have one more bubble now. Once this bubble goes out, you do want to be thinking, okay, where do I go next? Because the entire area to the left of you is blue, and you always want to be a little bit nervous if you only have a single escape route. If there's only one way out of a situation, all it takes is one opponent to paint that, and now you're in a lot of trouble. So the fact that this is all painted on the left and the fact that there's an opponent in front of you, that only leaves you going backwards, or you could, in theory, fall onto the fan, depending on what develops here. But you've got a lot of paint behind you, so this is definitely a situation to be like retreating a little bit, painting back up, and it looks like you guys are in position and you're doing fine. I like that you've got someone over fan and someone on the plat. That way, when someone comes out this way, they have to look in both directions, and that's a little bit more difficult for them. Dav is just going in. Let's see how this goes. They end up getting two. Very nice. A tree. Okay, they probably could have at least helped trade back in that fight. I'm not a huge fan, honestly, of like engaging into a 1v3 on the Tetras. Like, you had a little bit of support from the squeezer that was on its way in, but my thinking is they probably could have lasered the Tetras down just a little bit before they got that help. The 2v3 might definitely be winnable, especially if you see an opportunity. 1v3, though, I usually expect, if I see that sort of thing in my games, that the Tetra is going to, at best, get a 1-for-1 trade. Because something to think about with the Tetras is they don't actually have that great of DPS. Something like a splatter shot splats a lot faster than it does, and it only needs 3 shots. So the Tetras are depending on people missing shots a lot of the time for it to be able to get anything done. And as you go up against stronger and stronger opponents who miss fewer and fewer shots, that sort of a play is going to be less successful. So Tree is able to get out, but right now I don't think they even have enough time to get to the zone. This is probably game over. They have one player who snuck past you guys and is trying to paint it, but yeah, they don't have enough time. So this was generally just like every single fight that you guys ended up in, you won. They got, I think, like, what was it, 1 KA, 2 KA. Maybe one of these might be an armor assist. So this was just like you guys mechanically outplayed your opponents, and you did a good job of pushing up at the right times. You guys generally had the right idea with how to keep them off the zone by pushing their zone of control further backwards. Oh my goodness, we're being raided, hence the chipmunk noises. Thank you for the raid, Oaken Catboy, appreciate you. So, the big thing I would say there is, when you start playing against higher level teams, what's going to happen is they're going to punish you a little bit more for taking solo engagements, and you're going to want someone to be pairing with the Tetras a little bit more often. There was the one fight off on the right-hand side where they kind of just went into a 1v1 against an opponent with armor, and they won it, but that's not an advantageous fight, and that's you counting on outskilling the player mechanically. And there was the other situation where they jumped into office, into a 1v3, where again, it worked, and so, you know, you can't knock it all the way, but bear in mind that at a higher level of play, you're more likely to go down for that if you don't have a little bit more help. So that's something to keep in mind there. Man, I didn't even really get to see much of what the VDS or the Dynamo was doing there, because we were just kind of holding it down on the front lines. But overall, you know, very solid match. Good job to you guys. Do you have any questions for me? All right. In that case, I'm going to move on to our next match, which is going to be Ink Zuka. So I've got a timestamp here, and I'm going to pull that up right away. All right. Do we have anyone from Ink Zuka around? Ink Zuka Incorporated? All right. Sounds like not.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, awesome. Hello.
Yeah, we're here.
There in VC chat.
Cool. Again, feel free if you have any questions to just like interrupt me right away. But I'll get going here. Also, I'm not going to be able to read the VC chat, so if somebody would like to be like keeping an eye on that, and if there is a question that's raised by someone who can't VC, maybe they can raise it to me in the voice chat, because I've got this whole thing full screened and I won't be able to see that.
That's
all right,
and I can keep an eye for you.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay. So we're getting started on Clam Blitz Mako Mart versus Sea Bunnies. I don't even know what that means. So those are the bunnies, presumably, and so here we go. We've got, is this double roller brush charger? That's neat. Okay, and then the other side, slightly more meta comps. They've got double missile, they've got Bloblobber, and they've got Neo Splash. So they have an AFK Paint the Zones comp. They have one player that is their token aggressive player, and then they have 3 players that are just going to spend most of the match charging special. It looks like... Now, one thing that clues me in that this VDS might be a little bit more aggressive than the weapon would give you reason to think is that they're running Ninja Squid. So that's something to keep an eye out for. It's looking like their main fighting pair is going to be that VDS plus the Neo Splash. But Jet Squelcher and Bloblobber are going to just spend a lot of time painting the zone or painting something else on the map, getting specials that help them paint a lot more, and continuing to paint for them afterward. You guys, on the other hand, you've got a charger, so this is a fundamentally aggressive weapon for the team. It paints okay, but it's not going to spend a lot of time painting. It's going to spend more time shooting players, and it's also going to spend some time stingraying. So there's a lot of emphasis here on getting picks to prevent them from painting, which I think honestly plays really well into their comp because they have a lot of players that are just trying to AFK paint the zone. And now you've got a weapon that has really long range compared to them and a one-shot, so it's going to be significantly easier for that player to take them out, and they're going to have a lot of choice targets that will help reduce the other team's ability to paint the zone. So that's awesome. Then we've got a dynamo, which is going to be just holding down space in the middle of the map. We've got a brush that's kind of a brush and a roller that are both kind of going to be flanking. So no shooters whatsoever here. I'm worried a little bit about paint output, not just because they have a team that paints a lot, but also because especially the roller and the charger are probably not going to be painting the zone a lot, and the brush wants to be enabled to do flank things. So that puts a lot of onus on the dynamo to paint up for the comp, and I'm a little worried about how that pans out, but we'll have to see, because what am I talking about the zone? I'm so silly. Painting the map in general. It's going to fall to the dynamo a lot to cover up a lot of turf and cut off especially routes into the zone. When you play defense, you need to get full paint control of this area that I'm circling with my mouse right here that hopefully everybody can see. And getting that paint control very thoroughly is important so that you see players on their way in and they can't like sneak it, because this map gives you a lot of like blind corners that you can hide around and then sneak in when you think nobody's looking. So let's see what happens. So we start off, and this is going to give you a lot of control over the right stack. Beautiful pick. They had absolutely no business to be peeking up that high over the top of that against a charger player. Great job punishing it, and it looks like there was maybe an assist there from the dynamo. I'm not seeing anybody else going down, but they have the +1, so. It's so weird to me when someone gets an assist on a one-shot. Like, that's a little confusing. Maybe there was like a sprinkler that they got hit by or something. All right. Ooh, and that, so, yeah, the Jet Squelcher is definitely standing still for too long there. One thing that I might consider here is they're clearly not aware that you're here and they're shooting at someone else. But if you start aiming from here, what stronger players will start to do is see the laser and nope out of there, because they've got the ability to retreat backwards into their own ink if they see this coming. What you could do that you don't do here is you could hide the laser behind the cover that's on your right for a second, and then once you start scoping in, you can kind of snap to them and hit the shot from there, and that'll make it a little bit less obvious. Unfortunately, we miss. It happens, and they do get to back up, but that was a great opportunity for you to catch on to and try and take advantage of. Meantime, it looks like we got somebody else on the right-hand side between the brush and the roller, which is awesome. They're down there. And now the Jet Squelcher is zoned out a little bit here, but they did get a jump in, unfortunately. Dynamo is in a really aggressive position right now. They're going to need some support, because if they do get rushed or just start getting painted at by the blob or something, it's hard for them to move. So it's going to be important for someone to be able to paint for them if they want to take that aggressive a position. Now, that's not to say that the Dynamo is like making the wrong decision being there. I've seen some very, very aggressive Dynamo plays pay off, because you're not that different from another roller. You can still head up over ledges and one-shot people, and you can even do it from greater range. So that's not a bad place of the Dynamo to be offensively. It's just something where you want to make sure that if they do end up putting some kind of pressure on it, that it's able to respond to that and not just fold right away. You've fired a number of shots at this player, and they're staying in this spot and not really moving. It might behoove you, especially since you have longer range, so it's not like you have to worry that much about their sight lines. It might be a good idea to rotate to a place where you have a better angle than this, instead of firing 3 shots from the same location. Okay. Knowing that there is a Jet Squelcher who jumped down into Freezer, and that whole area is painted, it would be a really good call right now to bring the brush player over and just catch this player out. Oh, okay, they're inkjetting. Got it. All right, very nice, very nice. And we immediately get another power clam. So something that I talk about a lot in my videos on clam blitz and stuff is that with a clam blitz push, rather than playing to get as many points in as quickly as possible, you actually want to play to keep the basket open for as long as possible. What happens over here is that we have like 9 clams or something, and then we make a power clam and throw that in. What I would actually like to see instead is for you guys to throw those individual clams and like maybe throw 5 or 6 of them, but then save the last 3 and wait for the timer to go down a little bit and then throw each one in so that it refreshes the maximum amount of the timer that you have available. That way, the basket is going to stay open for your teammates who have all of these clams that they can go back into the map and get for you. And then they'll be able to come back in and you'll be able to score more than the clams that you currently have. My guess right now is that since you have no clams, the timer is going to tick down a pretty significant amount before any more come in. And the push might end because everyone has to scramble to get more of them, and now nobody's holding the basket open. Let's see if that prediction comes true here. So someone gets 4 more, and they get picked, and the push does in fact end. If this player, for example, who I believe is the one who threw the power clam in, had kept their individual clams instead, they could have sat here in this corner and made themselves really difficult to hit, and just thrown one at a time here and there, and the basket would still be open. So this was an opportunity to potentially knock the game out by holding the basket open and waiting for more clams to come in on, you know, the second load of clams. But instead, we threw everything we had in, we had nothing left, and when the one person who had any clams tried to make an approach to the basket, they got splatted. What you really want to happen is to have someone here, maybe someone here or here, maybe someone here, or maybe someone even over the top who has clams as well. 2 different angles. And if one of them gets threatened, they just back up. And the other one throws a clam in to keep the basket reset. And then when that player gets threatened, the other player walks forward again and throws another clam in. And you just kind of keep throwing individual clams in here and there from those annoying angles for the opposing team to focus down while the rest of their team covers them. Or maybe have one person going back to get more clams for when they run out of them. And that's the way you're going to keep the push going, and that's the way that you turn this from a push to 45 to a push to 0. All right, so we're returning to neutral at this point. Charger has still been in mid for a good long time, but the opposing team isn't really respecting it right now. I think if they were to respect it a little bit more, if they were to kind of say, hey, they just keep going to the same spot, they could probably put a flank around and pretty reliably find you where you're at. So again, I would highly recommend that any backline player just be rotating positions every so often, just because of how important it is for the enemy team to play around you and for the information about where you are. That information allows them to do that. Great shark there. Didn't exactly see where they came from, but well played. This player is pushing to their death. There's absolutely nothing for them to do. If they get around that corner, they're stuck in a corner. So that was really good. Now the VDS is trying to defend them, but they're also outnumbered there. So I like how you got your entire team to like focus on that angle there. They probably could have taken the dynamo down with them if they had aimed at that, but like what I would do here, so you get that pick. As soon as this player starts firing shots anywhere near your direction, like they did there, I guess they're firing at somebody back here instead. But I, as the dynamo player, do not trust that I'm going to be able to get a kill shot out before they're able to hit 4 shots on me in this situation. And what I would be doing instead is just trying to swim around and stay alive and skirmish so that my teammates are able to take this player out for me. And so they end up not targeting the dynamo here, even though they're vulnerable. So you get away with it, but that's a situation where, you know, against the mid-level team, dynamo is going to get traded back in that situation. Especially since you actually ran out of ink and wouldn't have had the kill shot anyway, I don't think. All right. So we're setting up for another push. We've just won a fight. We want to be painting forward. Nice pick again on the flank. They are really just kind of dropping into freezer, and that's something that you can definitely punish really hard. This drop takes away all of their escape routes, and in fact, a lot of the time they're going to end up on unpaintable turf. So if you're able to get even any turf control in here, they don't have the right to be doing this, and they're going to get flanked that way every time, and you guys are doing a good job of punishing them for it, as you can see by the brushes KA here. All right, so good awareness as the team. You can see there's someone out of the corner of your eye, and both of you immediately turn to deal with it. You take them out. Bit of a solo play from the Neo Splash there. It didn't look like they really had any... Or, sorry. Yeah, from the Neo Splash there. Didn't really look like they had that much of a play. I guess they traded the Charger for it, but... the Charger was not the one that was threatening the basket. The Charger's like a relatively low priority target in that situation, so you guys take advantage. You get some clams in. Doesn't look like you're going to get that much more unless... Okay, if the brush had been able to get a couple of clams in, they might have been able to save this, but what's happening here is we've scored, but we don't have control. When I say control, what I mean is there's a certain spot on the map, and we get a good view of it here, where you need to be able to stand in order to throw clams. You know, if we were to draw a circle, it would be, like, from my mouse, about around this sort of area. That's about the circle that we need control of here. So what needs to happen is you, as the attacking team, need to be able to walk into that circle without getting splatted, without getting threatened, pushed out of position, whatever else. That's the necessary condition for this push to continue any further than it's going to go. We throw in a power clam, and then immediately there's a bomb rush right here, and we don't have any pressure on the left-hand side. So we're just going to lose control of the basket this way. And this is something that you can kind of see developing if you're maybe the brush player here. You can see, like, okay, there's no way I get in here. And you do try and go over onto the left-hand side here while the bubbles come in. So maybe the bubbles are trying to distract the enemy team while you guys get in on this side. But you are also one down right now. So they are going to be able to rotate players to wherever they need to be able to take you guys out. You do get one, but then you're going to get traded back because, again, numbers disadvantage means that every fight you take, you're likely to go 1 for 1 instead of 1 for 0. So that ends up not changing the state of the map control at all. They still have control around their baskets. You aren't able to, like, go around and get any more clams in, and the push fizzles out from there. So what do we want to do instead? Well, we do a good job here of trying to use the bubbles to get in, but... what gets us in the first place? It's an inkjet. Okay, so we throw that in, and we throw in another one. The dynamo is already in pretty deep. This is just kind of a position they probably go down in unless they have more support. So if we want the dynamo to be here, we'd probably want somebody, you know, flanking around the right-hand side. Otherwise, we want dynamo to, like, go in, throw that, and back up or something. I don't know. Not much they're going to be able to get done there. And from here, we have a numbers disadvantage. You have a big lead, and the only chance that something happens here is the brush makes a successful solo play, or, like, the bubbles get 2 or something like that. This might be a situation where you just kind of back up and, like, wait for your teammates to come back. Especially since, you know, you have a charger, they're not going to be able to, like, go in with you. They're only going to be able to take good sight lines and try and assist you that way. So it's almost like a 2.5 v4 in the positions that you have to push into. So... this is just kind of an unlikely push to succeed. You do end up trading disproportionately for it, all things considered, so that's good on you guys mechanically. Ooh. I do like that you're ledge canceling there. Like, when you get up over the top, you're immediately going back squid form, and that will help you start swimming faster. That's tech that everybody who wants to get into this game competitively should always be using. Just, like, constantly practice that. And it is back in Splatoon 3, so definitely keep doing that stuff. Nice. This is a great position for you to be in to attack the right stack. Now, the missiles do go out on you before you do this swing. Actually, no, you're already starting to fling. Okay, never mind. So yeah, you just kind of have to do the best you can here. What happens? Okay, so one goes down on the right, and then that wasn't even you that hit them. I don't know what hits this player, but they go down. That's awesome. A vertical flick down that alleyway might hit them. So maybe if you like start it from behind the block and then move it out, you can control that space. But don't blame you for playing it a little bit safe there, especially since you have a Booyah Bomb that you might want to use to start a push later. Brush comes back into play, and you guys have an advantage right now. The Booyah Bomb is going to split those players up. What I interpret this Booyah Bomb is trying to do is that you have one player who's over here in Freezer and one player who's behind, and you're trying to split them up. You're trying to get one of them to rush forward and one of them to rush right. Because we know that there are two players here. You go after the one who is right here, and then I would assume that the other player had to go left. Let me look at this one more time. I think there's someone right there. I see a splash of something, but it might be like... Oh, that's a sprinkler. Okay, never mind. Never mind. So this looks like it's the only player in there. Meanwhile, something happened. Spectator cam is not an easy job for robots or otherwise. Okay, so a score goes in. It looks like it is really difficult to tell exactly where that came from. I guess you guys ran in at the front. You throw a power clam in, but it doesn't look like we're in a position to get more in there. Okay, we end up going and trying to suicide. Wow, okay, we actually get it. So what happens here? We get 2 down. Okay, so that's probably what's prompting us to just kind of rush forward here. There is a player in the way, so I get Saphira just trying to like throw a clam in there to keep the basket open long enough. I'm surprised though that Chirp here doesn't stop the brush in time. In this situation, it is just a 1v1. I like my odds a little bit better if, you know, knowing that I'm in range right now, I just try and take this player out real quick before, especially since there's a bomb on them, so that they probably got partly damaged with that. If they hit their shots a little bit quicker, they can probably stop this from KOing, so you might need to actually attend to this player before you throw the rest of them in. But, because yeah, especially the last 2 clams, I don't think they needed to let you have. But you do manage to finish the game that way, which is awesome. So what I was worried was going to happen here was that you guys put this power clam in, and then look at where all of the other clams are on the team. You've got a couple that you can throw in there, and then all of the other clams are like way off behind you. So there's no follow-up here. If the other team is able to clamp down and paint this perimeter up, the perimeter that I showed before, they can probably wall your team out and you don't get much more. And especially later on when you've got bigger penalties, you want to think carefully about whether it's actually worth it to put a power clam in, because that does give them a pity clam. That does give them extra scoring potential, which is something they're going to need if they're going to make it back into this game. So especially towards the end, you probably don't want to be going in unless you're absolutely sure you're going to have the clams to make a knockout push. Or at least we'll be able to get a very solid push started and bring those other clams in later. Because this all depends on a Charger player being able to move in with all of those clams, which is not something that the Charger necessarily wants to do, especially when they're getting flanked by a Neo Splash. So that's all I would say about that. But like, you had good awareness as soon as those 2 players went down to immediately try and finish the game. And so that's a great knockout from you guys there. We'll take a quick look at the numbers here. So again, there's definitely some mechanical outplaying going on. You know, you had just a bunch of pushes around the right-hand side with the brush and the roller that they maybe weren't paying as much attention to. They had that situation, for example, where the Charger was looking at the Jet Squelcher and the Jet Squelcher didn't know to back away quite as quickly. So there are definitely some mechanical things going on there. But in general, I'd say to try and make your clam blitz pushes a little bit more slow and steady and a lot less of a sprint to get as many points in as possible. And to try and maintain control around the baskets. Like, think of the area around the basket like it's a splat zone. And to try and start playing your pushes that way. And that'll give you more longevity around the basket and give you the opportunity to take those really big advantages you're creating for yourselves with your mechanical skill and capitalize on them more efficiently. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Yeah, I have one question.
All right.
How do you like our comp?
It's very strange. I did comment on
Thank
that
you.
a little bit at the beginning of it. And I'm sure you're proud that it's strange. I'm sure that's something that y'all are happy about. I pointed out a couple of points that might be something that another team would take advantage of. One being the Dynamos taking really aggressive positions, and if their feet were to get painted or something, that could be a problem for them. Also, that there isn't quite as much paint here, and that could end up being a liability depending on how the other teams play it. A team comp this passive especially is something which could, in theory, just outpaint your team and make it very difficult for like your roller or your brush to get into positions where they can do anything, because anywhere they go, they're going to be announcing themselves because they have to paint through enemy ink, and you can see the trail going. So those are, I'd say, the main weak points to it. Like the counter to any roller, to any aggressive roller, is going to be paint the map, and then you know where they can be, and you just don't go to anywhere that isn't painted. And this was a team that was in a kind of ideal position to do that with the way that they were laid out, but they just kind of kept letting flanks in, and so it ended up working for you. But those are my main critiques there, and that's kind of why you don't see a comp that looks like this at top level.
Okay.
All right. So thank you guys, and we're going to move on to the next group. So we've got 2 down, 2 to go. I'm checking really quickly. It's Pufferfish at 3:17:07. So that brings us all the way out near the end of the tournament, it looks like. Okay. That's close enough, and then we'll use the arrow key. All right, here we go. Pufferfish party. We got any pufferfish in here with us?
Yeah, we're all here actually.
I'm here.
Awesome. What's up, pufferfish folk?
Hi.
Uh,
So let's take a look at what we've got going here. This is Rainmaker, I think. I didn't quite see. No, tower control. Okay. So we've got tower control, and there's a Kensa Octobrush, an E-Leader, a Junior, and a Vanilla H3. So the Octobrush, is definitely going to be the major aggressor on this comp. But otherwise, this is relatively passive. We've got a lot of Double Bomb Junior. Man, you're making an argument for Triple Bomb Junior with that build. You're looking for it. And then we've got the Vanilla H3. Quick comment on the Junior build, just because I brought that up. In one of my videos, I brought on Hamram, who is a player for Siege, which was a high Div 1, probably should have been Div X team back a couple years ago. And he was a Junior main. And his stance is that Double Bomb Junior using Inksaver sub is not worth the gear investment, because what's more effective on a Junior is to be able to throw a bomb and then use the rest of the ink tank to paint for armor with your shots. So one bomb and then paint for armor, and that's the more effective way to have an impact while still getting your special charge as insanely fast as the Junior is capable of. On that same video, Pro Chara, you might know him from YouTube, recommends using one main of Inksaver sub and then LDE to get the rest of the way there to your double bomb for when you're getting to those lower scores, those lower points remaining. but they would probably say that you're better off maybe running some like special charge or something like that instead of the extra main of Inksaver sub. Then one thing that I would say about this comp is that I'm worried about how passive this is going to be. You've got an E-leader who obviously cannot take especially aggressive positions. You've got a junior who is going to throw bombs, lots of bombs, but probably is not going to be playing like a battle junior, seeing the way that we've got it built right now. We've got an H3, which wants to play at mid-range and let other players feed into it, and wants to farm for missiles. And so the only player that's really going to have the capacity to run forward to any degree is the Kensa Octobrush. And usually an Octobrush, a brush in general, is going to play more of a skirmisher role rather than just running in to finish off kills really quick. It's going to flank, but against strong teams, you're going to run into, people who are going to be aware of those flanks. And so instead of the flank paying off and you just being behind the enemy team and getting a triple kill, what's much more likely to happen in a competitive context is that you do a flank, the other player sees you, you notice that other player sees you, and you threaten just enough to get that other player to be forced to look at you instead of your teammate who does something in front. And between the two of you, you pinch them and you go in and get a pick that way. It's going to be either that or a lot of sharking. In terms of your team's ability to actually push forward, you don't really have a lot going for you here. You're going to have to be playing your weapons a little bit outside of their comfort zones to be able to be on one spot on the map and get to a further forward spot on the map by shoving the enemy team out of it. There's nothing like a Neo Splash or a Kensa 52 Gal that's going to be able to put itself in between it and the enemy team and win that fight, or a Tri-Slosher or something like that. Tri-Slosher is also very good on this map. I love running it here, but that's neither here nor there. They, on the other hand, have a very, very aggressive comp that is capable of doing that exact thing I just said in spades, probably a little bit redundantly, actually. So they've got a K-Shot, which is going to be kind of more paint support. They've got LDE for throwing suction bombs at tower, which is a really good build. They've got Tetras, which this is a quick respawn Tetras, so they're just going to be trying to jump in and stay in your base. They've got a K-Gal, which, we all know and love and hate K-Gal. It's coming back in Splatoon 3, it just has Whale instead. Whee! And then we've got the Gluga Dekos. And Gluga Dekos actually play kind of similar to how K52 plays. They also have a wall, they also have a survivability special, they also have pretty long range and a two-shot if they roll. Like, you actually can kind of think about this weapon in much the same way as you can the Kensa 52 in terms of how you have to counterplay it. So these guys are going to be really aggressive, and I'm thinking your best bet looking at the team comps is you guys wait for them to push into you and throw stuff at them or beat them with your range before they can get there. So let's see how this plays out. Looks like we got the junior farming for armor really quick and immediately popping it. And you've got the H3 also farming for missiles really quickly. I like that you guys have these specials this quickly. You're playing that supportive role really well. You have them before the opposing team has anywhere close to their specials. Meantime, the leader just finds a good shot, which is awesome. And so you guys have the ability to pop this armor and move forward with it. And it is here that we kind of see a little bit of that weakness I was talking about with pushing forward. We have this player on the left-hand side completely isolated, and it still takes us a little while to actually get over there and push them. Like, we lose a lot of time. We could have gotten that player if we had slightly more aggressive weapons, but because, it's just a junior who's looking at them, they're able to kind of get out of there and get back behind cover, and this isn't quite as clean of a fight win as you would have liked. You still get 2 down without going down yourselves, which is awesome. It's just you probably could have had that a little bit better control over the tower, because right now, you got 2 players down, but one of them's already respawned, and we're still getting to the first checkpoint. Those, seconds that you save by having another player down, starting a stagger, by being able to push up to this left plat a little bit faster because your weapons allow you to do that safely. That sort of thing does end up mattering because, seconds matter in this game. Half seconds, quarter seconds matter in this game. But we're on our way up over the top because we saw a bunch of players there. We're able to successfully get a pick. Trade 1 for 1, which should be fine. And we've got a 2v1 on this player over here. Now Blitz needs to take cover behind the tower or they're down. Yeah, okay. So we got the checkpoint. Is there anything we could have done to prevent this here? With the players going down on this end, I would say at this point, as the tower rider, both of your teammates are down up here. The only player left is your E-leader. The chances that you're going to be able to displace the enemy team around this whole radius around the tower, the chances you're going to be able to control the zone around the tower, like I was talking about controlling the basket in the last VOD review, pretty slim. In this case, I would be like, well, we got checkpoint. I'm out of here. Preserve your life so that your team doesn't stagger here because your front line is down. The extra, 8 points that you get, I don't think are worth you going down here, because now you leave your E-leader out in mid. And okay, granted, somebody just exposes themselves when they're completely out of range and gets picked needlessly. So that's not exactly something that you want to count on. But look, now they've got position in mid, and those jumps weren't safe. You got checkpoint. That's some pretty good, significant progress. You're going to be able, once you have control of the map again, to easily get up to 60 and beyond if you're just playing a little bit more patient. What's going to prevent you from getting up past 60 and beyond is if you guys go down and start staggering. On my streams, I always use the phrase, the feed stagger loop, because a lot of the people who watch my streams have seen my videos and know when I refer to that. But I'll do a quick definition here for those of you who might not be familiar. The feed stagger loop is what happens when one player goes down and now your team is in a 3v4. And then those players take a fight before everybody's back. And so now, even though the player who got splatted in the first place respawns, they're coming back into the match and it's still a 3v4 because somebody else went down. If you don't ever back up and regroup when you're at a disadvantage like this, then you could put yourself in a state where you spend, best case scenario, 20 seconds before you're able to ever engage in an advantageous fight again. But if you back up and just wait for players to respawn, you have those players back, in a position like this in maybe 7 or 8 seconds. Because you see that they went down, you take a second and decide, okay, yeah, we can't keep pushing this. You back up, and now not only are you getting those players back faster, but they're further forward in mid than they would be if you continued to stagger and they were able to start pushing the tower. So the jumps to the E-leader in mid are a little bit overzealous here. Remember, the E-leader is the last player up, and they're kind of out in an exposed position in mid. We knew that there were players over on the left-hand side before, and they seem to be liking to come out that way. So it's very likely that goes down. So it's a good thing that the E-leader got that one random pick earlier on, because otherwise you guys would be at a significant disadvantage right now, and they would be able to start pushing the tower themselves. Because that happened, we're at a little bit more of a stalemate. But again, like I mentioned before, that pick isn't something that you want to be counting on as a part of your game plan. That's something that's even, a mid-level competitive team is not going to give to you. So, let's see how this goes. E-leader is under pressure right now, and yeah, completely understand them trying to get out of the way. I assume that was called out and that your teammate went after it. Unfortunately, goes down. Great pick there. You're cracked. Holy moly. What's going on over there? Unfortunate jump up here. Again, the kind of rule of thumb with super jumps is you only ever super jump into an area of the map that you have control of as a team. And by control of, I mean, as soon as the enemy were to try and walk in there, you would be able to shoot them. Usually the fact that it's painted is a pretty good indication of this, and so a good visual shorthand is, as soon as you get splatted, open your map and just keep looking at the map the whole time. Usually you're going to get more information that way anyway that you can feed to your teammates. And whoever you're jumping to, look at how much of a radius around that player you have painted. If there's like enemy ink touching it pretty nearby and you can't account for all of the opponents, never jump there. And I think if you were to look at your map and see the situation developing out here, you would realize, oh, this is not safe at all. They have control of our street. They probably have control of our bunker. We can't see that from our perspective, but I assume that's the case. That's probably not going to be a safe jump. It ends up not being. Again, E-Leader hits a crazy pick. Like, props to the E-Leader player. They're just hitting a lot of shots that are like keeping you guys in the game, even in situations where you go a player down or something. I'm a little bit worried about this push right here because, again, we haven't perfectly established control of bunker. Even if Paolo here is able to engage someone before they get up over the top, this player could just be like, oh, I don't want to fight that brush, and run and drop off the left and be like, oh, hey, an E-Leader in point-blank range. I like this. Starting to push into mid here. We've got the missiles to work with. So especially since they've just fired missiles, it's not a bad idea to fire these missiles to slow them down in the way that their missiles are going to slow you down. Great pick from Paolo there. What happens here? Yeah, just a mechanical outplay. Looks like this player was expecting Paolo to be in a different place than they actually were. Yeah, okay. So what happened there was they threw the bomb and then they retreated backwards after throwing it. And this player was expecting them to still be in the place they were when they threw the bomb. And Ninja Squid probably helped out a lot with that. If you catch the Ninja Squid trail, which you probably have time to see as the 52, you know that they're over here. But they're probably just looking and seeing, oh, there are no splashes moving back in this direction. That means the player is right here. And instead, Paolo was able to get in behind them. Again, at top level, like, players are actually good enough to see that trail to know there is someone with Ninja Squid in the game. I need to be looking for a trail, not for splashes, and they don't fall for this. But this is the utility of Ninja Squid right here. This is a perfect example of how Ninja Squid works to get you more picks, and why it's useful on something like a brush. Great job also here. So you're just kind of retreating here, but then you see, oh, there's someone behind me. Let's just take them out because I'm on the other side of this splash wall. So that works really well for you guys, and good job on the rest of the team to engage the Glugas so that they thought they were safe. And now you're in a good position. Now, what you want right now is for someone to be clearing out the area in front of the tower here, because if there's someone sharking in street, you're not going to get very far. Right now, a couple of objectives that we want if we're going to have a safe tower push to the second checkpoint. We want control of their bunker up here on the upper right. Getting someone up here prevents someone from being able to drop down on that. And it also gives you a lot of control over the enemy street if you're able to push up far enough. You probably want someone at least pressuring the left-hand side so people can't just take pot shots over this edge. And then that enables the tower riders to focus on what's directly in front of them in street. So Paolo is going to start moving up, which is awesome. We've got Blitz on bunker, so I'm glad that this is going exactly according to plan. This is awesome. Someone's engaging on the tower, and so now's the time for Paolo to move in and assist with that. Ooh, okay, wait, maybe it was Paolo was getting engaged there. Yeah, Paolo gets engaged there. I think the tower is a bit higher of a priority, and having Paolo maybe get behind this glass box for cover and to take them out from the side would have enabled the push to go on a little bit longer. But we get a little bit separated here. We get into positions where Paolo can't help Jeans, Jeans can't help Paolo or Blitz, who's up here on bunker. Blitz doesn't have an angle on the tower. The only person who can really see it is the E-Leader, and they're at an angle where they just can't hit any of this. We want to take positions that give us maybe a little bit more high ground, and we want to be aware of where the tower is at so that at any point in time, if we are needed, we can immediately direct our attention to it instead of getting so sequestered away from each other that we can't all converge on the objective when we need to. So 2 players go down. Blitz is going to have to back up here. This is a really aggressive play, and this one I don't agree with because the position you're putting yourself in enables them, especially on dualies, to get into range of you before you have shots on them. Especially if one of these two players had put out a wall and then swam in behind it. Now they're in range of you, and you actually cannot hit them, and you don't even trade. You always want to be using your range advantage, and this isn't a position that allows you to use it very well. So when, things go south, what I would be doing there is retreating and more following the tower path than going left. Because retreating in that direction, you'll always have a way to run backwards. But as soon as you lock yourself in on the left side here, you really don't have a safe way to go backwards. Yes, you can go back over cut, but that requires you to paint a wall and then swim up it and then jump. And in that time, they're closing distance and they're going to catch you first. All right. So Star Squids are starting to take control themselves. They've got the tower. They've got someone up on your bunker. And they're a little bit more clustered up around the tower, so I like the idea of throwing a bunch of bombs at them. Paolo is now getting in there. Jeans drops down. Good pick. In this position, I might have liked for Paolo... Let's see what Paolo can see here. As soon as that player drops in, I would have liked for Paolo to kind of pay attention to it. Granted, they're shooting at Paolo, so Paolo, should definitely be skirmishing here. But it doesn't look like they're actually even looking at this player. This is something that, you want to be paying immediate attention to, because those are shots that came pretty close to you. That's something that threatens you. You don't want to be putting your junior in a 1v1 against basically any of the weapons on their team, just because junior has a slower time to kill and also a worse range, so they can get kited back really easily. This is a situation where you want to be 2v1ing this player to make sure that you have an advantageous fight. But Jeans ends up coming in clutch and takes them out, which is awesome. Now you're going to get separated from the tower by this Booyah. That's relatively well placed. They probably could have played that a little bit more aggressively, put it a little bit further forward and forced you even further back, or forced you in on them or something. But what's nice is that you have the E-Leader watching the other side. So while these guys are in on one side, the E-Leader picks them from the other. And having that pinch on the tower is really strong. Now, I am a little worried that the E-Leader gets collapsed on at this point, because now there's nobody in between the rest of the team in middle and the E-Leader, and the E-Leader only has so many shots before they reach there. With the whole front line being here on the right-hand side and nobody in between them and the leader, that would be something that I'd be concerned about. But Paolo just kind of pops off, gets a double, and now we're back on offense. Woomy. So there's a baller coming in behind the tower. This is something, again, as Blitz. You guys have the lead. You don't need to, suicide for points, and suiciding right now is not going to get you any more points. I would focus more on not getting pinched here and staying alive than I would on staying on the tower. The tower is going to stay in place for 5 seconds anyway. It always freezes there and is still counted as being under your control until 5 seconds have passed since one of you were on top of it. Since you're very likely to run into someone from in front and this player is behind you, I would retreat more in line with tower path until this player is dealt with in some way. Because now you're getting crossfired from the other side. And, okay, Paolo is the one who ends up going down to that. Actually, you both go down to that. That's a well-played pinch from the other team. They're using that baller, that survivability special, to flank you guys, and using that flank very effectively to clear you from the tower. So you have the ability to play it a little bit safer there. I would definitely take advantage of that. Emerald basically just trying to splash down because they don't know what else is going to save their teammate. Nothing will. There is an E-Leader watching their jump. Ooh, okay. What happens here? So we've got someone going up over the top left, and they're able to pin the E-Leader, it looks like, on the far left. We don't see any of that, unfortunately, because of the camera, but... So now they've got 2 down, and they're going to take lead here. Missiles go out. Are those missiles early? Those missiles might be early. You guys have 2 down. The only 2 people who can push are the H3 and the Junior. Meanwhile, they have 1 in your street, 1 on tower, 1 in bunker. So the missiles might stall a little bit. They're not going to stop this, I don't think. I guess they do stall pretty well. Their missiles come out to try and push you guys back in, but again, we go 2 down. What happens here? So the E-leader's still... It is so hard to figure out where Blitz ends up in this position. I think they're on elbow, and somebody goes and jumps at them and gets them. But, yeah, we're not getting the best camera angle for that. Good pick from Paolo. Their 52 absolutely should have been in a little bit faster and just traded that back. They definitely could have taken Paolo out there if they'd just been a little bit faster on the draw. Good job punishing that move. And so that's not disastrous. You know, again, you don't have a... The way that I kind of look at it is you guys don't have a checkpoint in between you and lead. So all it's going to take is for you to have control for a little bit. You win a fight, even in this position right here, and you've got lead back. Unfortunately, the hammer does get flanked here. Looks like you came from bunker, but they were coming in from behind you. Knowing that some players have gone down, it's always important to be aware that they might show up from the direction of their base. Also, maybe a little bit mistimed here. I guess you don't have the armor yet. What I would want to be doing as Pufferfish Party here is having the junior get armor, since they're really close to it, before the hammer goes in. And that can keep the hammer safer and potentially give it the ability to survive this. They do get shot in the back by a 52. I don't know that they are even going to be able to survive that, but I think that's a good general game plan. Just like how with Inkjets you want to pair them with armor, hammers also probably want to be paired with armor. So they go down. This player misses their shots, so you're able to clear that up. But even then, they probably could have at least severely weakened Jeans here, if not picked them outright. Nice. So you guys have 2 down. You're back on the tower. And you've got very significant control here. Oh, someone was sharking up there. Someone was sharking up there this whole time. I think we actually see the jump there. Right there. Oh, man. It's very, very short time window. But something is happening right here that is green. So that's actually something that might have warned you that something was going on over here. But don't blame me for missing it. I wouldn't have expected there to be someone there. Now, as soon as you see shots behind you, you don't have an escape route. Like, there's no way that you can go backwards and be safe. What you might actually want to do in this position is run forward and try and get around this corner and actually run up their elbow and get back into street or something. Because you don't like your 1v1 against any of these weapons. All of these weapons have a better ability to duel than the junior does. So that might be the plan. This is not going to result in lead. You are 2 players down already. They have control of the left-hand side and street. This is a situation where you need to be regrouping instead of staggering more. Because now you've only got 45 seconds left. Now the junior is going to come up and still be in a 3v4. It's a pretty risky position to be in right now. We didn't want to... That was a very early push. We should have recognized this was not a position we had advantage in and backed up and tried to regroup. Now they have full control because they were able to get into a 4v2 situation, and they win that every time as long as they're able to force the fight. And now look at the position that they're in. They've got this massive perimeter of control around where the tower is going to have to go. They stand a pretty good chance of actually breaking this checkpoint before you guys can get control again. They're going to be able to set up walls to wall off your leader. They've got missiles ready because when you get a wipe like that, you are going to have special advantage. And so those missiles allow Emerald to get into your pit and get 2. And now we're just kind of, you know, in a disadvantageous fight. Paulo making the hero play to stop the checkpoint, but not in time to actually save it from getting taken. And that's just going to be game right there. So the big thing to look at is staggering. Tower control is a pretty slow and steady mode. You do not have to push for quick points. Instead, preserve your life and preserve your perimeter of control around the tower. And only once you have that under control does your support or your backliner hop back on the tower and keep going. You should only, as a general rule, be pushing the tower when it will be uncontested, unless you're really close to lead or a checkpoint or something. Otherwise, just back it up, save your special, save yourself, give your team less time where they're down at a numbers disadvantage, and that will prevent this last-minute comeback from the other team from happening like it did. You guys have any questions for me?
No, I don't think so, but thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So that's 3 of the 4 done. We're moving on to our final one, which is Star Squids. We actually just saw them, and they come back in... I don't know what match it is, actually. 328-15.
Yo.
Mm-hmm. What's up?
Star Squid's here. Hi, I'm Early.
Hello.
Hi, I'm also here.
Yay.
So you guys get... Oh, this is the same set, actually.
Yeah.
Neat. So we get to just give you guys double VOD reviews.
Yay.
Yahoo!
Woohoo! Okay. Let's look at how the comps changed. Interesting. Okay. So they're running K-Scope and Crapid now. So Blitz, very similar playstyle between the H3 and the Rapid here. So they're playing around the same roles, just they've got double baller now. So it looks like my guess, seeing a comp like this, would be that they're trying to run baller strats. They're trying to get super jumps into the clam basket. And we'll talk about that strategy if and when it occurs. Then other side, we've swapped the Galugas and the 52 for a Zap and a Dynamo. I like this. You've got plenty of paint for the Tetras. All of you are running pretty standard builds from my understanding. And the Dynamo is going to be pretty good for defending the basket in particular, hitting up over ledges and stuff like that. So you've got some good aggressive opportunities there. That makes some sense to me. All right. Clam Blitz Reef. So starting off again by painting for armor. There's already been a trade here. I would like to see... Let's see what... I love how the spectator cam will automatically attach to the support who's farming for their special in a corner of the map instead of where fighting is actually going to happen. I don't know what happens in this fight. I don't know what to tell you guys. There's a trade. Now, based on what I can see on the map right now, and maybe I can't see these guys' positions because it's from the perspective of Pufferfish Party, but I would like to have seen Mint, if they're going to engage on a fight, especially early on in the neutral game, I would like to see them engage with a teammate so that if something happens, they can trade back. Clearly what happens here is the Brush catches the flanker and trades back for the E-leader, or the K-charger, rather. If there's a second player here with Mint, they trade Paolo back, and now they still have a numbers advantage. But because Mint went in by themselves, they got pretty much the best case scenario, which is they get one pick and then they go down. So overall, I would say that fight is better played by Pufferfish Party simply because they have teammates that are around to help trade that back. We're not taking separate fights here. The whole team is focused on one fight. And that's going to give you an advantage in that one fight, and that's going to give you the numbers that you need for it. Because like right now, our Tetris player is underneath the bridge. That's not where the fight was happening. If they were there, again, maybe they could trade Paolo back or something like that. Now Jeans is going to come and take control of the right-hand side. We've got the Dynamo watching this. Ooh, a bomb on the Dynamo, always a good play. That takes them out, and you do a good job of backing up to avoid Tetris here. Paolo just kind of slips one in there under you guys' noses. That's something where I expect this shooter player, at mid-level or high level to be able to just hit the shots. What seems like it's happening is as you're aiming, you're hitting behind them. And as a general rule, I mean, it wouldn't have helped you as much against a brush, but as a general rule, err on the side of aiming too far in front of them, especially if they're trying to make an objective push like on Rainmaker or Clam Blitz or something, because even if you miss in front of them, you're going to paint their feet that way. If you're hitting behind them, you're not going to hit anything. You're not stopping them from moving in any way. So err on the side of aiming in front of them, and then even if you are missing now, if they push forward still, they run into your shots, and then you're starting to hit shots. So that might have helped you a little bit with hitting those. And now Paolo is in this really annoying location, and you got to be really careful, especially knowing that the brush isn't down or anything. As soon as they get into the basket, you got to think, okay, they had enough control to walk into this area here. How much more control did they really need to get right underneath this ledge or to get right into car or something like that? That's something that you just kind of want to expect once they get control of the basket. And instead of exposing yourself up over a ledge, maybe like use some of that Dynamo range and slosh down over the side from a little bit further back before you try to approach that closely. So they're able to just get you with the hammer there. Another one goes down in the ensuing fight, and Blitz is going to be able to get some points in with Paolo here. You do a good job of... let's see what happens. So Paolo goes down immediately. Blitz does a great job of trading that back immediately. And now they've got range on Emerald, and Jeans is actually... Okay, yeah. So this actually just gets traded back really well. You guys are doing a good job of being aware of where the fights are and what to pay attention to in that moment. You do a good job of getting the pick on the Charger here. They're definitely out of position, trying to go and maybe get some aggressive snipes or something. But again, same issue we were talking about on Manta. If you push into a position like that, the enemy team will have range on you before you have range on them. Well, at the same time, I guess. But you don't want them to have range on you at the same time you do when you're a Charger player. So you get that pick really cleanly, which is awesome. And then you realize that there are people in car and you come to take this fight. You take out Paolo, but Blitz takes out Mint. And then Jeans is able to help trade back here against Emerald, it looks like. Either that or Blitz just gets some crazy shots. And you're able to keep it going. So this is a really good position for Pufferfish Party here. You guys have to respawn and get back in. We want to make sure, not to be too overzealous. Remember, the other team only has one clam right now. So you don't have to rush into anything. They're not going to score that much more if you don't stop them right this second. Make sure that you're going to win the fight conclusively on defense, rather than rushing it and potentially losing it and letting them score even more afterward. So you get Jeans really safely. We still need to get Blitz out of here. And Blitz, with another great play against the Dynamo here. This is a really tough position to dislodge a weapon like our Crapid from. You need to be really careful and bomb it out. And you don't have a lot of pushing power to get rid of it. That's going to have the range to be able to hit it before it can hit you. And Blitz is playing this really well. You do get another player out, so this shouldn't last too much longer. Ooh, wait a minute. We've got a jump coming in. Now, they're probably not going to jump, yeah. Oh, no, they do jump. As the jumper here, what you've got to look at before anything else is, as soon as you see where that last clam is and you start swimming toward it, look first at the timer. Right now, you physically do not have enough time, no matter, how fast you initiate the super jump, no matter where the super jump ends up being, you just don't have the time to get that power clam to the basket before the basket closes. And when you get there, the only way that this play is going to be successful is if you win the game by throwing that into the basket. Otherwise, you're just getting collapsed on right now and you're going to get splatted. So, seeing that you get the power clam and there's this much time left on the timer, you need to just save it. In fact, I wouldn't have even gotten the last clam at this point because I would have looked at the timer and been like, by the time I get this clam, I'm not going to have enough time, so I don't want to reveal myself. I don't want to force myself to have less range to be able to throw these clams in. I just want to keep the 9 and get back out on the map. So we're going to do a good job here, it looks like, of cleaning that up. Great job. Yep. Nobody goes down. Very clean. They're staggered a bit. And our objective right now is, since we've got 2 down, we want to take advantage of that to get as much control of the map as we safely can. Obviously, you don't want to rush into anything and die to a bomb right away, but, like, get somebody on bridge, maybe, who can hold bridge effectively. Get somebody over on the right-hand side to threaten a flank. Have somebody watching the left, but get this stuff painted up so that they can't approach as safely. Got missiles going out. I question, and I haven't seen this yet, but I question whether these missiles are going to have any impact at all. Because, yes, you're going to get some information from them, but the enemy team is so far away from you right now, and everybody is over on the left when you've shot the missiles on the right. I don't think anybody can even follow up on these. I don't think this actually will do anything for you. Yeah, the missiles have already landed. They have accomplished nothing in the direction that you shot them. They landed in the enemy spawn or something. That was a little bit on the early side to be launching those. And now that somebody on your team is down, the call should be, like, paint up and get specials, but, like, do not hard engage right now, because this is unlikely to go our way. Yeah, you get one and they trade back. You make a power clam, which I think is a big mistake in this situation. You guys are 2 down, because remember, the dynamo is still respawning. You guys are 2 down. Someone just went down in front of you, and now you've done something that reveals you to the enemy team. So you get splatted for that. Now there's somebody on the right-hand side who also goes down, and Pufferfish Party is going to be able to get significant control here. Clever play there from Blitz to hide that they were going to have a power clam. I don't know that they actually hold control of the basket for very long off of this, though. A Rapid Blaster pushing in by themselves, they're going to get the clam at most, and then they're going to go down. And now the other team's going to have players respawning. I don't see this going especially far, especially since you've got a penalty of 40 that they have to get through. Well, they do end up getting some picks here. What happens? So the dynamo's down, but we trade the splatter shot someplace. Okay, we trade the splatter shot right behind Blitz. And then a splashdown comes in that gets sniped immediately. Yeah, especially against a charger who's been hitting as many shots as their charger has. I would not expect to be able to splash down in open areas like this, in line of sight. I would try to maybe throw some bombs and displace them or something first, or maybe do it from high ground against a shorter ranged weapon. But yeah, the splashdown, competitive play, you get to a point where it becomes more of a liability than a special sometimes.
If I can add to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go for it.
In this situation like that, I feel like if I'd at least played the splashdown more patient, assuming I didn't throw bombs, I could have at least just gotten to a safe place and, like, jumped to our support and made sure splashdown is safer and gotten, like, the ball or two.
Yeah, super jumping to a teammate with your splashdown, especially if they're in there, that's going to make it a lot safer. So that is really good thinking. Okay, but from here, they're going to get some points in. You do a great job there of playing defense. Good. That is exactly what I'm looking for from the Dynamo earlier, where, granted, in this position, you're in about the same spot, but this time you have all of this area painted up. You know that the brush is not coming up this way. And from here, this is the kind of distance that you want to be keeping between you and the enemy team when you play defense. If they're up here on this area, you want to be, from here to here. So you want to be, like, back in this area sloshing over the top once or twice to make sure that that's clear, and then you swim forward, and then you go for these kinds of plays. But that's really good job, knowing your range. I can tell that, like, you've thought about where you want this weapon to stand on this team when playing defense here, and you're going to be able to stop that. And we pick up the pity, which I think makes sense here because you want the extra scoring power. You're down 100 to 13, so you're going to need to take some risks and get some better scores off here. Now, on a team with a charger, bridge is a lot less safe to just kind of stand there and flick in. So, good punish there from the K-Charger. That's going to slow you guys down a bit. You are able to save the clam. So right here, it looks like you're still angling to score. This might be a position where you want to play a little bit safe, just because, again, you're at a disadvantage. Oh, they actually run and score here. So Paolo goes and does the A-rank brush thing and actually scores behind you guys. That's going to lead to them going down. And honestly, it might have been good to maybe keep a player or two forward just so that you've maintained map control. Because if that player goes down and now the entire team is able to push ahead, and like maybe you have someone skirmishing here and someone skirmishing here to buy some time, you might be able to start that push in a 4v3 from mid with specials ready to go. But because everybody retreats and ends up in the same place, it just takes like some bombs and some rapid shots, and you guys can't get back into mid again. So we're regrouping here, which is good. We're not rushing in to take crazy fights. Mint ends up getting one. Seeing that Mint got one, like, I know that there's a player over here, but this player is clearly more distracted by that side. And I feel like this is a really passive position to be playing right now. Obviously, you don't want to get sniped, and you don't want to put yourself in range of a frontliner. But we've gotten picks up in front. We've got someone distracted on the left. Like, being back by your basket like that isn't really doing your team that much good. It's kind of giving your team a numbers disadvantage from that position. Mint is absolutely popping off. I think that's a quad, or a triple at least. And so we get both power clams in. That's still only 60. Remember, like I talked about earlier, the goal here is keep the basket open as long as possible. That's the way that you KO in Clam Blitz, because you guys are going to run out of clams in 4 now. And if you don't have any more coming in, you're just kind of praying that there's extra ready to go. Yeah, we used all of those clams, and then we ran out, and it ended up that we all died. So there's that. But let's see, how do we all go down here? Let's pay attention to that too. So the Booyah Bomb goes up there. And then Charger and Dynamo trade. Emerald goes down in a 1v1, it looks like. Oh, it looks like Emerald just didn't know that the brush was there and was turning their attention over here instead. Is there anything we could have done differently there? So we see the brush right here. That's something where maybe like 2 car or something like that would clue Emerald in. Oh, wait, I can't just turn my attention away from car right now. That kind of call out might have helped. I don't know exactly what's going on the comms, but it seems like something that Emerald could have known about given different circumstances. So at this point, Mint doesn't have any ink around them. Okay, they get a trade, which isn't bad. But definitely not an advantageous fight a lot of the time. It's just this tiny little trail of ink. They know exactly what to look at. What you probably want to be doing in this sort of a position is like poking with clams. You like have someone just peek just a little bit further forward and throw a clam and then immediately run away. And then everyone turns their attention over there. And then someone over here pokes their head just a little bit closer and throws a clam in, and then they run away. And you kind of try and draw the enemy team around like that until you get some kind of opportunity or until you get forced out. But you're going to get your feet painted. Blitz is going to take you out there. Looking Looking like Emerald is one of the first back. Really well played fight from Blitz and the rest of Pufferfish Party there. You guys just don't have a lot that can take control of bridge here. The Dynamo's not bad at it, but the Dynamo has to be worried about the Charger and the Rapid. Both of those are big threats to it. So that might be a comp issue, that like having bridge is really important on this map. And if you don't have weapons that get like disproportionately good control over it, that might be something to rethink. See, you know, okay, what else do we have in our weapon pools? Good Dynamo Flick is going to stop the hammer there. And this is a position where you actually want the baller to explode. So they don't have a power clam, but they're right next to one. Actually, I don't know. Because if you shred the baller, they can throw clams right away. So if you shred the baller and they're right on top of a power clam, they pick the power clam right up. Whereas if they had the power clam in their possession and the baller exploded, the power clam would fall off them. They'd have to go backwards and retrieve it and then run it to the basket, and that gives you guys more time. Now, there is kind of the consideration that there's a bunch of paint that's going to go down around the basket as a result of the baller exploding. So I could see you, you know, making an argument either way for whether you want to shred this. But you definitely don't want to jump down on top of it. This is something where, you know, it's a baller. You're going to hear it well before you see it. And so hearing that it's here, we don't want to be jumping out there with a Dynamo Flick. That's just too hard of a commitment. They're going to be able to splat you for that. They still should not really be able to get away with this. Yeah, they don't. That's just too many players from Pufferfish pushing into too many of you guys. I generally recommend that you very rarely want to have 2 power clams. Ideally, the way that you want to be approaching every given push is everybody on your team has 9 individual clams. That way, nobody is being revealed for the entire time that the fight is going down around the basket. And then once you get to the basket, you throw 1 individual clam. It makes a power clam. That player throws that in. And then you still have 27 individual clams that you can throw in. You know, 27 times 3. We're talking pretty close to a knockout with that kind of a payload coming in. Is that a knockout? It could potentially be a knockout depending on what the penalties are. That's really what you want. Because individual clams have a lot of advantages. They don't reveal you for one thing, but also you can throw them from further away. So you don't have to force your way in as far to get one of those in. You can kind of poke around the outskirts of the defensive perimeter. Like, you force the defenders to control a larger zone around the basket when you have individual clams you're throwing in, because they have to push further out to be able to get you. And that spreads them thinner, and that opens them up to maybe being isolated and picked. That gives you better opportunities. And on top of all of that, it is much, much more efficient, both in terms of the number of points you score. So like 10 individual clams, what you need to make a power clam. If you make a power clam out of that, that gives you 20 points. If you don't make a power clam out of that, that's 30 points. Granted, you don't get it quite as fast, but you don't necessarily want it fast. Because a power clam is just going to refill the entire timer once. But individual clams, you can refill about 1/3 of that timer 9 times. That gives you more than twice as much time on the clock that a power clam gives you. Obviously, at a certain point, there's a time where you can see, all right, I don't have time to actually throw all of these clams in, and I don't think we're going to be able to hold control of the basket long enough for me to do it again. And at that point in time, yeah, okay, start throwing them as fast as you can, or just start backing up with them. But as long as you have control of the zone, that is the payload, that is the scoring potential that you're going to want in your possession in order to make a successful scoring push that actually allows you to KO. So we pop armor. Good start. We get a couple of picks. That's huge. only one player down, and that player is not the clam holder. You guys go in opposite directions to split the defense. Unfortunately, there's nobody who's going to be able to rescue this one as easily. Oh, wait, huge trade. You get another one in. You still need a couple of more, and I don't think you're going to find them in time. There's nobody who can jump in. All right, so you got about as much as you possibly could have there. But let's think about how this works if instead we have 9 clams apiece. Well, you need someone to make a power clam here, unfortunately. And you might not have the ability to do that. Maybe Sabrith could have thrown one over here or thrown one up top, or maybe one of them could throw one to the other and you could juggle it up the alleyway or something. But let's just say, you know, basket gets opened. Now, this player gets in, and now maybe there's 9 clams sitting around here. 9 clams, if you throw them carefully enough, buy you how much time? 27 points plus 9, so 18 off of this. That gets you down to 18, and it buys you more time than this power clam does. So we go from 21. And if you just focused on staying alive while you were keeping the basket open there, now we've got, you know, probably like 5 more clams still by the time that the timer gets down this far. And maybe you're going to be able to get someone who spawns back in and is able to come and help this a little bit more. So that's kind of an idealized situation, obviously, but it's something to think about, like reframe what you find valuable in terms of scoring, because there are a lot of downsides to having power clams. All right, so good job to Pufferfish Party. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions that you have for me? That was a little rubber duck. I apologize for the squeak.
For the most part, not really. And I think Mint had to leave early, so
Okay.
yeah. But for the most part, it was just like kind of simple things that we could have played better. Like I could have taken more 2v1s and not like push in with the ball on me. So
it's hard to push in, especially against something like a rapid and a charger. Like those are 2 weapons where you need to know where they are before you do stuff.
Yeah, and they were able to position their K-Rapid really well to pick us off, especially in the first push.
Mm-hmm. All right. I guess I might as well open it up to Pufferfish since you guys are here too, and I didn't know that. Woomy it is. All right. Well, that's all of the matches that we have here for us today. I want to give a big thank you to the TOs here. Thank you to Moon and everyone else who put on From the Ink Up that you know, has this footage here and is, you know, giving that footage to the competitive players and trying to use it to help them improve. That's awesome of you guys. Thank you to all the players for being here and for, you know, being willing to be criticized up on stream in front of other people. You know, that's not always the easiest thing, so I always appreciate that. So Moon, you're here, correct?
Yeah, I'm here.
Anything that you would like to plug before we close out today?
Not that I can think of really, other than to check out From the Ink Up at least if any low-level players out here are interested in it. We're not doing anything in September other than like fixing stuff with like rules and like adding stuff like and like doing stuff like figuring it out like this. But we'll be starting back up in early October for 3.
Yeah, it's going to be in flux a little bit at first because Splatoon 3 is going to be a new game, so we need to have some new changes to the rules and things like that. So tournaments might take a second to get back online, but absolutely check them out. When I tweeted out the announcement, I put their @ in it, so you can go and find them from there, and I'm sure there's information in their Twitter bio. Excuse me. As for me, I run Squid School, so if you are interested in looking more into what I do, the links actually just got posted in chat, but I'll post them again because I'm a shill. I've got a TikTok account where I do educational content, and a YouTube channel and a Twitch channel. I'm on Twitter. There is a Discord server where you can join a bunch of fans of the show and, also some other competitive players and maybe ask some questions and things like that. I've also got a Patreon account. I'm trying to do this whole thing full time. Fingers crossed that it works out. And also a Metafy, which unfortunately is not going to activate until more people vouch for me or something like that. So I don't know. I guess go and do that if you want that to be a thing. Otherwise, that's all I have to say. Just those few little details. So we're gonna go and find another Splatoon channel to raid here. Looks like Rafa is live and it's showing their name twice. So we're going to watch 2 Rafa streams at the same time. Thanks everybody for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to hop over onto Twitch so you can participate in the raid here. And we're gonna send all of y'all off to watch Rafa. Very strong competitive level player, high level on the Luna Blaster especially, and I'm sure he's looking forward to the buffs that his main class have been getting in Splatoon 3. So thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks again to From the Ink Up and all of the players who participated in this. We'll see you next time.